Today's case is interesting. Two individuals who have never met in canon, never spoken, never crossed paths in any documented manner game, and yet the fandom insists they already understand each other. Welcome to the Identity 5 Psychology Office. Today we are analyzing Florimatt and why the pairing works. Now, let's get into what is Florimatt. Florimatt is the pairing between Florian Brand, a fire investigator with a deeply complicated relationship with fire, and Matthias czernin, a withdrawn puppeteer whose identity has been gradually overwritten. In canon, they do not interact, but in fandom psychology, that is not the point. Florimatt exists because both characters orbit the same emotional theme. Identity is shaped through external performance. Matthias was replaced by Louis, a puppet version of himself, more likable, more expressive, more acceptable. Florian was turned into a miracle survivor, a child defined by a fire, then later reinforced by society until it became his identity. So we have two individuals who are not fully themselves in the way they are perceived. And, fandom tends to connect characters who feel emotionally unfinished in complementary ways. Florimatt didn't come from direct story interaction, it emerged from the thematic overlap and community interpretation. Both characters were released with deeply psychological backstories centered around trauma, identity, perception, and fire. Both are shaped by a single defining event, both reinterpret that event in ways that distort reality. Both develop coping mechanisms that blur the line between control and delusion. From there, fan content did the rest, like edits, art, character analysis, began placing them side by side, and the dynamic clicked almost immediately. Now let's get into the parallels. At their core, Florian and Matthias represent two different responses to trauma. Matthias is erasure with, burning the theater down, and Florian is reinterpretation, which is making himself the hero. Matthias loses identity after being replaced by Louis, a puppet version of himself when he was younger, that receives all the love and attention that he doesn't. Over time, he internalizes the idea that he is less real than the imitation. Florian, on the other hand, takes loss and reshapes it into something meaningful. He chooses to believe that his parents' love still exists within the flame that killed them. That contrast is one of the strongest foundations of the ship. Let's talk about their dynamic. Florimatt works because their traits fill each other's gaps. Florian is outwardly warm, he's more social, and he has this purpose of saving people. Matthias is withdrawn, emotionally suppressed, and he struggles with identity and believing he's real. In a shared dynamic, Florian becomes someone who can approach Matthias without fear, while Matthias represents something Florian cannot easily fix. At the same time, Matthias challenges Florian's worldview. Florian believes in meaning within destruction, while Matthias has experienced what happens when something artificial replaces something real. Let's get into psychological mirroring. This is where Florimatt becomes especially interesting. Matthias represents suppression. His emotions are muted, his expression is usually, melancholy-ish. His voice is replaced by that Louis. Florian represents reconstruction. Emotion is redirected, trauma is reframed, identity is built through narrative reinforcement. So when paired conceptually, they create a psychological balance of one who lost control of his voice and one who uses his voice to control his narrative. Now basically, to put it short, Matthias withdraws from attention and Florian depends on it. Now, let's get into their symbolic contrast. Florian is defined by fire, destruction, rescue, heat, and survival. Matthias is defined by strings, control, movement, performance, imitation. And yet both are fundamentally about external force shaping a person. Now, let's get to why do they feel canon despite never even interacting? Even without interaction, Florimatt feels real to many because it follows a common fandom phenomenon, emotional adjacency. Characters don't need shared scenes to feel connected. They need shared logic, shared emotional bridges. So when we imagine Florian recognizing Matthias as someone replaced by narrative, or Matthias recognizing Florian as someone consumed by narrative, together they form a hypothetical conversation about identity and survival, ownership of self. Now, why does Florimatt stick? Why hasn't it, died down? Well, neither is purely villainous, neither is fully stable. Both are shaped by loss of family, loss of control, loss of self. This creates a tone of melancholy, psychological unresolved trauma, and it's intimate, it's personal without needing canon confirmation. It's less about connection in a traditional sense and more about two broken narratives being replaced side by side to see if they stop feeling so fractured. Florimatt thrives because it offers emotional contrast. We have warmth from Florian versus detachment from Matthias, psychological depth, coping with Florian, and collapse with Matthias, symbolic tension, which is creation, which is miracles and these fires from Florian, and destruction from Matthias, which is a fire. It also leaves space for interpretation. Since there's no canon interactions, it's easier to explore healing dynamics and destructive cycles, or something even in between. That flexibility keeps the pairing alive and constantly evolving. Now, this does wrap up the Florimatt video. I ask, if you do have any fic recs, please comment them and let me know what you would like to see next. Let me know.